Now we're gonna touch on a lot of topics here, but recovery. How key is recovery, and are you an ice bath person? I know there's a lot of people that love it, and there's some people that are just like, it's not as important as some people say. What's your thoughts on the recovery and in particular ice baths?
100%. So recovery is like so important, and with recovery, I think the number one thing for recovery is just having a well-balanced training workload. So there becomes a point where you train too much that you can't recover from, and it's all based on your training load, and your week of training should be based on like what you're trying to get out of it. So, for example, it wouldn't be a great idea to do your heaviest gym session and your heaviest like net session or footy session a day before a game, because that's going to be hard to recover from to play a game of footy the next day. But if we have that on a Wednesday or a Thursday, that's a lot better for recovery to be able to get up for a game Saturday. So just balancing your week, number one, is really, really important. Just make sure you're doing the right things at the right times. Otherwise, yeah, because with recovery, there is an element of time and rest that is required. The big rocks for recovery, though, is sleep. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't... You know,
that'd be 8 hours, you're saying?
8 hours. 8 hours for adults, 9, 10 hours for teenagers. Mm. And it's like, there's a saying that goes, like, you can't out-ice bath a bad sleep. Like, you can have all the ice baths in the world, but if you had bad sleep, your recovery is still going to be impaired. So you've got to prioritise your sleep. Things that help with your sleep is reducing your caffeine like after midday. So if you have like a cup of coffee or 80 milligrams of coffee, which is a shot, 8 hours later, half that's still circulating in your system. So it'd be like having half a shot of coffee at 8 p.m. at night. So just keeping those things in mind, being exposed to darkness and being in a dark room, trying to minimize phone time, screen time, which is so hard. And to be honest, I'm pretty bad at myself. But things I've tried to do is like listen to a podcast before bed, maybe like the Up the Guts podcast, where you chucked it on before you go to bed. And just lie like 15 minutes just so you don't have that light in your eyes. That helps you fall asleep a bit better. Or like reading a book or something before you go to bed. And then that's the best for sleep hygiene. That's the most important form of recovery. And then moving on from that, another big rock is...
But just before we move on to that, sorry, have you tried any of the tapes, the mouth or nose, or seen that around? Have you tried any of them or heard anything about them, how they work?
Yeah, I actually have. My when I first started up high performance career, I had a business coach, a business mentor, and he actually just released his own brand for nasal strips, and I think it actually has tremendous benefits. From all reports, it like really helps open up that nasal cavity, and you get like higher quality oxygen in. So apparently, it's actually really, really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you're saying past the sleep, the next key pillar to that was...
Yeah, so apart from sleep, I think the next and most important thing for that is managing just your life stress. So just if you're wound up, tight, stressed, you're not going to be able to recover as well. So just finding time to have downtime and relax. Mm-hmm. Nutrition and hydration from then is another big rock. So make sure we're refueling with carbohydrates, high protein, to replenish the stores that we lost. And then with rehydration as well is to try and get a lot of fluids back in, and then electrolytes as well. If we're covering those big rocks of sleep, nutrition, hydration, and stress management, then we can move on to our active modalities. So there's nothing like mobility and then going for a walk. Mm-hmm. That's probably the next best thing there. So actually getting moving again is great. Like everyone understands that feeling when they've just sat around all day and they feel so stiff and it feels shocking. Whereas getting up, going for a walk, getting some sunlight exposure, doing a stretch, you always feel $1 million after that, and it's pretty cruisy. You can chuck TV on and have a stretch in front of the TV. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we do get into like your ice baths, your Normatec boots, your hot and colds, like your saunas, your all those sort of modalities, which are the smaller rocks. So they can...
And how much time are you spending in, say, the hot and cold?
It doesn't honestly matter too much. Maybe like 1 minute at a time, 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off. About that 1-to-1 works. It's, as I said, it's not as important. It doesn't actually matter. I think like 2 minutes isn't better than like 3 minutes, etc. I'd do like a 15-minute session or something like that. So if it's 1 on, 1 off, or 2 on, 2 off, doesn't matter. That stuff, like anecdotally, like it does help make you feel better. 100. I think it makes you feel better. There's no science behind it though.
Yep.
That really says it does. But I personally think you feel better after an ice bath. And feeling good is like with recovery, you want to get back to feeling good. So I'm all for it. If people want to do it, 100%. But at the same time, if people get stressed thinking about it, if they hate it that much and they get so stressed thinking about it, that will affect our big rock of managing your stress. So if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if you want to do it, is what I say.
How do you get in the headspace to do it? Because I know a lot of people say who do it, you're thinking it's worse than it is, and you got to be controlling your breathing while you're in there. What are some strategies that maybe you did or you teach people to do when going into that sort of recovery?
Yeah, I feel like it has to be, first of all, I feel like the person has to want to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm not big on forcing people to do things.
Yeah.
Because people will just want to do things that they want to do. And if you're forcing somebody to do something,
they'll fall off eventually.
100% unsustainable. So I think all that stuff, it's all that's where the individualization comes into it, where they can just do whatever they feel like they want to do. But for me personally, I'm not the biggest, like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like doing it, sometimes I don't, like for my own training and that. Mm-hmm. But when I'm like, nah, let's just do it, I think it's just nothing, just like, you just have to go do it. Like, you can have all these techniques, like slowing down your breathing's really good and things like that. But sometimes when things just go get done, you just go get in there. And it's one of those things, it's like this delayed gratification. Like, it will feel pretty bad when you're in there. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, though, is when you get the benefit. So think about, like, maybe why you're doing it, or think about the future you, and just try and make your life better in the future by just delaying that gratification a little bit.
Yep. So say if you're going to play footy or you've just finished a cricket game, how soon should this recovery be starting? Should you think about, all right, let's start my recovery routine?
100%. So this is game finishes, you go in there, ideal situation, you go in there, win, sing a song. From there, straight away, we're getting fluids back in. We're drinking plenty of water, hydrolytes, if they're Gatorades, get that in you straight away. We're then trying to get some high quality foods back into us as possible. So get plenty of carbs, plenty of protein, eating that straight away. From there, it's sort of pick your poison. Do you want to have a bit of a stretch, bit of foam rolling, etc.? And then you can jump into your hot and colds. You can either do that straight away if you have that available at your club or whatever. So oftentimes, if it's local, maybe you won't. Mm-hmm. So I'll be having, just having a shower, going home, relaxing. As I said, like, relaxing and just actually de-stressing is probably the best thing to do. So go home, relax, and if you can get a nice bath at home, either that next day or that night.
Yep,
that's absolutely awesome.
Doesn't matter if it's that night or the next day.
Nah, it doesn't matter at all, really. The next day I'll be trying to go out, going for a walk, having a stretch. All those things are really basic and really easy, and that's how I think it's the best way to make it consistent. Like, just do things that are low friction. So if you live near the beach, walk down to the beach, get in there 15 minutes, 20 minutes, jump out, go for a stretch while you're watching TV in the morning, maybe watching the Sunday footy show, have a stretch or watching that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the worst thing for recovery is getting on the piss. It's alcohol.
Yeah.
So that is like
which is hard to avoid sometimes, especially in the local sporting stuff.
100%. Typically, from my ideal recovery, I mentioned before about the hydrolytes and the food. Typically, the first thing you'll get if you're playing seniors or twos footy is a slab in the middle. Mm-hmm. So alcohol is like, when it goes back to nutrition, hydration, one of my big rocks, that is the worst possible thing you can do for your recovery, because it stuffs up your sleep, and it's poor nutrition, hydration, and it's a depressant. So it also makes you more stressed, and you get the anxiety the next day and things like that. So it's actually the recipe for the worst thing for recovery. Mm-hmm. However, though, we aren't robots, and you are going to want to enjoy some social time with your mates, but maybe it's just not. Maybe it's before you get on the beers. Maybe it's having a couple of hydrolytes and making sure you
balance it out.
100%. You tick those boxes. You have a good meal. You don't wait till the HSP later on at night. You eat a good feed. You hydrate well. You have a couple of hydrolytes, and then you can go and have a few beers. Maybe you don't get absolutely plastered. Maybe you just have like six or seven, and then you still have a bit of a buzz, and you still feel good, and you're not blacked out somewhere, and you're not, and try not to get home at 4 a.m. or something like that, and try and get home a bit earlier than normal because of what, not too much good happens after midnight.